All right.
Whenever you're ready, Coach.
We're missing a few today.
Jags lost to 46.
Yeah. Okay, obviously, before we get moving to the next one, I think it would be, I just want to thank our fans. I mean, I think it's 11 straight sellouts. We're hopeful for the 12th this weekend. But just a really special environment. I thought they played a major factor in the game. And just, I think this group and our team have been vocal about how thankful they are that our fans continue to show up. I think obviously we've been frustrated ourselves at times, and for them to continue to be there and play a major factor in the game, I think we're very appreciative of that. So we're going to need them Saturday. Obviously, a good Ole Miss team coming into town, and a lot at stake. So the big thing for us is we have to earn the right to win, and I think that's got to be the approach each day of the week. I thought we wanted to be the most prepared we have been to play last week. That was the big message and challenge, and I think we were. So this week it's all about earning the right to win, and we have to have a little bit of a playoff mindset ourselves to some degree. Can we handle the praise, the positive? Obviously played well Saturday and get a lot of gratification from that. But I think it's important that we hit the reset button here, and it's about the next challenge. You're either growing or you're dying. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. So our attitude and our approach towards meetings and practice and our self-discipline, our routine this week will be really critical. But Ole Miss has got playmakers on offense, obviously a veteran quarterback. And then defensively, you've got some disruptive players up front. I think the overall, just a very veteran team, 32 seniors in the two deep on offense and defense, not to mention a couple redshirt juniors. So, in general, they're in position to, they've had a good year, right? So I think this is a good football team, a ranked opponent, and we're excited about the challenge. What do we have?
You worked with Lane 3 years. What your thoughts on him as a coach and offensive mind?
Yeah. No, Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator as well, worked with Charlie. We were all at Alabama together there for a couple of years. So just in general, one thing I would say is that I learned a lot. I think that environment, the people that we had in the building, when you start looking at the list of coaches and support staff, I think that was a beneficial time in my career just because of the people that were in the building. And obviously Lane was a part of that staff. So, yeah, that's what I would say. That entire experience was extremely beneficial.
Just his personality. What do you think he kind of brings to the game? He's kind of got a little Spurrier-ish brashness, likes to kind of poke people, and he's obviously the offensive kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, always, Lane's always been that guy. I mean, he's got tremendous experience. I think Lane's shown a ton of growth, in my opinion. I think I obviously know him well. When his dad passed away, we spent a lot of time talking about some of that. Obviously, I had been through that. So, he's a coach's son. I'm a coach's son. And I think we love ball, right? We love everything about the game. So, and Lane continued. He's got multiple opportunities as a head coach. I think maybe this is his fourth opportunity. So, just in general, very accomplished and experienced coach.
You guys chatted on the phone about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When Ani Kiffin passed?
Mm-hmm. We did.
What about the intricacies of the offense? I mean, traditionally they're top, and the challenge of that, and coming off your defensive performance, what kind of challenge that's going to be this week?
Well, I think very systematic. I think he's had a number of different coordinators. I think you go back to the transition at Alabama, and then obviously when he got the job at FAU, Kendall Briles, then it was Jeff Lebby, now it's Charlie Weiss Jr. So I think he's had a number of different coordinators that have contributed to the evolution of that. You know, the tempo being part of that. And then I think you add in some of the unique formation variables that maybe goes to our background with the pro style. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's been challenging for people to stop. You know, I think obviously they've had good balance too. It's not necessarily one-dimensional. So last year, obviously, we were very rush heavy. And then obviously this year, the quarterback being the premier player, and obviously they got a really good group of receivers. So Lane's always done a good job of taking whatever skill players he has and playing to those strengths.
Just the incentive of sending the seniors out in the last home game on a high note. Is that something you discuss within the locker room? I know that you don't need to give this team any additional fuel, but do you bring it up at all? And it's something for the younger players as a motivational factor?
Yeah, I do think it's I think it's a unique week in that regard, you know, and obviously this group of seniors are a unique group. I think there'll be a part of that for the younger players to want to do their part for that group, you know. So that will be a portion of the motivation, I would say. And those guys will talk about that. Obviously, it's going to come up, and the families are involved, and I think it's a big deal. So, especially a place like Florida, playing in that venue, which is a privilege, and obviously you only get so many opportunities to do it. So I do think it's a special day.
I can't really ask you about your secondary the other day, but those guys, the corners and safeties, played, I think, all 93 snaps. Just the job they did to cover at a high rate to allow the defensive front to get home. How critical was that in the win, in your opinion?
Yeah, I thought it was huge. I mean, it was a big part of the challenge in the game. They've got really good skill, and obviously the quarterback to go along with that. You pair the running game with the tight end and the receivers there on some of the unique matchups. So I thought we stayed on top of them pretty good. We played with better leverage. I thought the communication was really good. There was only a handful of plays where maybe we were a little bit out of whack, and some of that was underneath coverage. So Triquez Bridges' position flexibility has proved to be very valuable, right? He played corner the entire game. And then Bryce Thornton, I thought, really stepped up. And we're getting good play out of the nickel and free safety position. So D.D., man, what an incredible example to other players relative to his toughness and grit playing through injury. But those guys got healthy last week. I thought they were, you know, we limped into that Texas game. And they played, but they weren't quite themselves. And then I think being healthy helped them. But there was no doubt some coverage sacks in the game. They were a big piece of that. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately that group is, you know, they played every play, which is unique. Now, you know, Sharif played at Star with Gates. That position does quite a bit of running. It's a different type of position. But, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's who we are right now. It's who we got to be. Pro ball, that was an NFL game, you know.
You go from a game where you have a very stationary quarterback in Nussmeier to Dart, who is very, very active, very mobile.
Yeah.
Talk about the challenges that presents.
Yeah, I think you're thinking like me now, you know. But I think it's one of the more demanding parts of the matchup. Is not only do you have to match up with the skill outside and the coverages you would like to play to leverage all the routes the right way, puts you in a position where the quarterback can hurt you, right? So you're kind of picking your poison, and I think they are committed to the run. There's a ton of RPOs in this system as well. So that'll be one of the chess matches that'll be taking place. And the one thing I would say about Jackson Dart is he's 225 pounds. He's 6'1.5", you know, so he's dense, you know, and he's proven to be effective in this league as a runner. So they mix him in there, you know, throughout the game when they need him, and he's effective.
You also your senior day. How tough is that for you, going to a senior day?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pregame routine changes up a little bit. We got some special ones in this group, you know, some guys that I think have showed outstanding leadership, and you know, we've got some guys that are injured as well that are part of this group. So, Yeah, I mean, I think as we get closer to that day, you'll spend a little more time thinking about each one of those individual players.
Has there been any discussion with Asa about applying for a medical year?
Not that I know of.
He can, right?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that he's thinking in those terms, but obviously I imagine that could be out there for him.
With the backfield, obviously, Montreal coming back from injury, and then Jaden and Jacoby just having excelled in the last few weeks. What are you expecting to see from this group, which has really found its footing as of late? What are you expecting to see from them going into Ole Miss in just the home stretch of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two young ones continue to get better with confidence. I mean, I think the biggest area of growth for them is just overall understanding of the scheme and the protection part. They've got really good instincts with the ball. You know, I think typically running backs early in their career are pretty good with the ball. It's the protection piece that's key. So, you know, again, you're either growing or dying, and they need to not rest on their laurels here and have a great week of prep and try to finish the season trending in the right direction. So far, so good with those two.
When you look at the two deep right now, I mean, it's still a lot of freshmen and sophomores. I mean, just how invaluable are the next couple of weeks even going to be to finish up and have been maybe against SEC
Yeah.
competition, and what that's going to mean maybe for the future of the program as well?
Yeah, I think, look, I think for us, I would like to see some maturity from our team. You know, can we handle – this group has been able to ignore the noise. Can we sort through the hype a little bit, you know, and stay consistent in the way we prepare, our practice habits, our self-discipline, our film review? Because then I think long-term as a program to go where we want to go, we're going to have to navigate that week in and week out, right? So this league and a playoff format will challenge that, you know. So not only physically turning it around and being ready to play, but mentally, new set of variables, new personnel, new plan, and then emotionally you got to sort through that too, right? So are we mature enough to handle all the praise, and can we turn it around and do it again?
I just have to ask you about DJ Lagway, but he woke up Sunday still feeling good, and you know that was probably the most he had done in 2 weeks. But what do you expect out of him this week from a continuing to progress standpoint? Do you anticipate ramping it up a little bit more for him in practice?
Well, I mean, I think he didn't miss a rep with the first unit last week, so we'll take the same approach this week. You know, I think the soft tissue injury, again, those are very subjective. So, I mean, we've got every gadget that is known to human. I mean, every gadget that you can imagine downstairs. So, I mean, I think we're using all that data and all those metrics to make decisions to try to put him in position to be the healthiest he can be, you know. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to just day to day. You know, he didn't have a setback, and I think he feels a little bit better at this point in the week than he did last week.
What was his week like in terms of kind of having to adjust his thinking to how he's going to play? He talked about it being kind of I don't know if you saw his interview,
Yeah.
but he said he took it on as a challenge to kind of like operate from the pocket because it's not really his full game.
Yeah, I think that was part of the message was like, look, you know, I think this is part of the challenge, right? Can you evolve as a player? Can you, you know, play a little shorthanded, you know? I think, and this will be good for your development as a whole. You know, have to view the game in that regard. It's not an option. So, now don't get me wrong. I think he did extend the play. He did move in the pocket. He did a really good job in that regard. But I thought overall he handled it pretty well. And look, there were a handful of plays out there, missed opportunities. I mean, he could have had a big day. So he's still a young player. He's still evolving. And I think that was a good kind of experience for him long term that he can lean on in the future.
The quirk of the portal this week with Princely back on senior day of all things too.
Yeah,
He'd probably
yeah.
be his senior day.
Sure.
What have you seen from him? I mean, he's having a pretty huge year.
Yeah, no, I think it's just another week in college football. You know, I mean, I think it's not, get used to it, is what I would say. You know, I mean, I think, but yeah, I mean, I think I've commented on that in the past, you know, and I think it's just the next challenge.
This is a team that leads the country in sacks, and you're coming off a game where you're Your offensive line did a terrific job in pass protection. Talk about the challenge that this one is, and they seem to get so much of their pressure just from their front three.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think they've got some unique players up front. I think they cover them pretty good in the back end. I think it's structurally, obviously, you guys have done your homework here. Pete Golding and Ron Roberts, that relationship is a big piece of the puzzle in this game, you know, in terms of the defensive structure. So much like us, when the rush and coverage work well together, they can affect the quarterback. So I think at times they've done that. Yeah, my sons have been very critical of my gritty the last day or two. So, no, I think it's players asked for it. I delivered. I think I got like a 6 out of 10 or something like that. So maybe I'll do better next time.
What type of weekend does that do for recruiting momentum, and what do you feel like that could carry into this last few weeks?
Yeah. Winning helps recruiting. That's what I would tell you. So I think for us, you know, that game day environment, seeing players produce, seeing players improve, you know, I think it just kind of, it's a final piece of your product. You know, I think we've worked on all the other parts of the player experience here. I think it's second to none. And I think seeing players improve and develop and grow into guys that can be some of the better players in the country at their position and have future NFL careers, that's important. Winning's important. And then just having a seat in that swamp when it's on fire like it was Saturday night, I think that's important as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
3 in a row at home, is that a reflection of your team? I mean, the last home loss was in September against Texas A&M. Is that just a reflection of the growth of the team?
Yeah, it's part of being a good team. It's part of having a championship contender. Trying to become a championship contender is you got to be strong at home. You know, you got to win those. I mean, home field advantage in this league has got to be it's a big piece to the puzzle, right? So, and if you look at the history of this program, when we were winning championships around here, they dominated at home. So we understand that, know that. That's a big part of it.